Hello and welcome everyone. Andy Bryan here again from the Soul Pathway, and today within this video I'm going to be speaking with you about identifying the masculine and feminine within your twin flame dynamic and relationship. As I've found through speaking to so many different twin flames that they're often confused whether they are the masculine or the feminine within the dynamic and the relationship. Most people believe if they are female, they are the divine feminine, and if they are men, then they are the divine masculine. But the truth of the matter is that when it comes to the masculine and feminine, it's all about energy, as we all know. So how do we begin to identify whether we are the masculine or feminine? Because when it comes down to it, we all both have the masculine and feminine energies within ourselves. So when it comes to embracing our twin flame and the relationship as a whole, in many ways what we are learning to do is transcend our consciousness and awareness, but also balance the masculine and feminine energies within ourselves. And so we need, in many ways, to identify whether we are dominant in more of the masculine energy or even more of the feminine energy. And I speak about the masculine and feminine with regards to archetypes, because from my perspective it all goes back to our conditioning and how we were raised. And the way I look at conditioning is, conditioning from an ego perspective is conditions from society, culture, religion, values and beliefs passed on to you by your parents, and even those which you've looked up to from a young age. So these conditions shape our ego and the way that we live our lives. And when we grow older, we often are living through these conditions. So if you were brought up in a household that was very much predominantly masculine, then you may begin to adopt the masculine energy. If you were brought up in a household that is very much connected with the inner feminine, then you'll find, or you may find, that you're connected with your inner feminine more so. But there are also many other things that come into play, like your wounding and things like that as well. So if you have wounding in your masculine and feminine, if you're heavily wounded in the masculine energy, then you could project the feminine energy more outwardly, and vice versa as well. If you're very much got a lot of wounds within the feminine, you can be very much expressive within the masculine energy. But let me go about exploring these archetypes, because the archetypes for me really set the scene as to understanding whether we are more connected with the masculine or the feminine energy. And the archetypes I like to speak about are the archetypes of the warrior and the caregiver. And the warrior is very much the masculine, whereas the caregiver is very much the feminine energy. Now the warrior, as you look at it, is the one that puts on that suit of armour to fight to get what they want in life. And this is very much the masculine energy, and very much more predominantly within men, because men from a societal perspective are taught to be the warrior in society. They're taught to, they're raised to be the one that looks after the household from a material perspective. So they have the job, they bring home the money, and they support the wife from a financial aspect, you could say. And this is very much conditioning. So you've very much been shaped in that way. But the reason why I like the warrior is it's very much a good depiction, because as the warrior fights to get what he wants in life, or what she wants, he puts on that suit of armour. And that suit of armour is a protection mechanism for himself. As the warrior goes out to fight in an army, let's say, then they are protected. But they are protected in many different ways, but they're not protected from themselves, because the warrior puts on the suit of armor and in many ways neglects their inner emotions and feelings, which is often where the masculine comes into play within a twin flame relationship, because they have in many ways been conditioned through society, culture, religion, and those values and beliefs passed on to them by their parents. The twin flame dynamic and relationship can feel incredibly overwhelming. So they deny their emotions, their feelings, and what's coming from within. And, you know, I say deny, but in many ways it's not the fact that they're denying, because they want to embrace the connection just as much as you do if you're the divine feminine, you know, but they find it very difficult to work through and deal with, because much of the time with the warrior there are many wounds. There are many wounds that come in battle. And so when you think about that and you've got this heavy emotion that's coming within, you don't want to acknowledge it. You want to repress it and deny it, because it's so powerful and it's so overwhelming, and it brings up so much pain and hurt. So that in many ways is where the masculine is coming from, because the masculine in many ways is, you know, your twin flame is a reflection of you as you are to them. So as you reflect back to them and they reflect back to you, the masculine is reflected back their own wounds, their own pain. And this is where you have wounds of abandonment, neglect, or whatever the deep core wound may be that is required to heal in order for them to step into who they are. But the masculine is really important there in terms of looking at it from an archetypal perspective in terms of the warrior. So I hope you found that to be valuable, first off, in terms of, you know, connecting with the masculine energy. I want you to ask yourself, do you feel like you're connected with that yourself? And one thing I forgot to mention there is that the masculine is often connected with the runner energy, running from the connection and trying to disconnect from their feelings and emotion, often through that overwhelm, but because they're fearful of embracing their inner emotions and feelings, because it's like from the warrior again, it's seen as a weakness. You're not seen as strong. And yet I believe as we awaken to who we are and we realize our divinity and who we are in terms of the beauty, then there is much beauty in expressing your inner emotions and feelings, and that's one I've come to love and connect with as I embrace my vulnerable self as well. But the masculine tends to do that, so you will often find the runner being the masculine energy, okay? But it can switch roles as well, so I'm not saying it's definitely the masculine or the feminine that's the runner, but you know, you may find it predominantly to be that way. But that's from a conditioned aspect. As the masculine awakens and they shift their consciousness, they start to, you know, fight a more altruistic fight, and they start to connect and embrace their inner feminine, which is that inner caregiver. And this is all about embracing that masculine and feminine within yourself and within the relationship as well, as you come into harmony with who you are and you bring harmony within the relationship, and your energies start to merge together as one, which is divine, beautiful, and it brings unity and oneness. So let's look at the caregiver before I speak so much about the warrior. The caregiver in society is the loving, caring mother, wife and daughter who gives their unconditional love to everybody, you know, as much as they can. But again, this is still from a conditional aspect. So when it comes to the twin flame relationship, you may find that the one that adopts the feminine role, which is a caregiver, is really embracing that love, because they feel that love, they absorb it, they connect with it, and all they want to do is attach to it, So that's where the feminine comes into play in terms of chasing the masculine counterpart. But what tends to happen is, from a conditioned aspect, because you feel you need to give that unconditional love, care and support to those around you, you also do it within your twin flame dynamic and relationship. But what happens is you neglect your own needs. So this is the part you have to begin to play within your relationship. So let's look at the feminine role. The feminine, as they give the unconditional love, neglects themselves, and that's where the shadow comes into play. As they neglect themselves, they neglect true self-love, because they give it out to others and they forget to truly give it to themselves. So you've got the two, roles and dynamics within a relationship, but I want you to think about, who do you identify with more? Do you identify with the feminine, or do you identify with the masculine energy? Because it's all about shifting consciousness and shifting conditioning. And for me, again, it doesn't matter whether you're male in the twin flame dynamic and relationship, female or female in the dynamic and relationship. You will have one of you will embody the masculine energy to a high degree, and the other will actually very much connect with that feminine energy instead. And if I actually look at my dynamic and relationship with myself, I know, connecting within and looking at my own balance and harmony within, I've got a high degree of the feminine energy, which I am working through myself. I give unconditional love, care and support to others as much as I can, and yet I feel like at times as well I'm neglecting my own self and my own needs. So I want you to think about the masculine and the feminine within your relationship, within your dynamic. Do you identify more with the masculine energy or more with the feminine energy? Do you see yourself as a runner or even a chaser? And many people say that, I want to end on this final note, that we switch roles a lot within the relationship. And in many ways you can say we all switch roles within a dynamic relationship, because this love is incredibly overwhelming and we all find it hard to embody this intense love and connection. But in some ways we switch roles, but in other ways we will be much more dominant in one or the other energies throughout the journey. So if you're very dominant in the masculine energy, whether you start chasing the connection, you will still have to balance the feminine within yourself in order to connect with your inner emotions and feelings, like with myself and my emotions and my feelings, and honoring who I am, in terms of stepping into my role and bringing out that masculine. I need to honor that as well. So the roles will switch, but if you are very much connected more with the feminine energy, then you will play that role throughout the relationship in many ways. Much like connecting with the masculine, if you're more dominant in the masculine, that is what you will express throughout the relationship. So I hope you have found that to be valuable and useful within your dynamic and your relationship. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below this video, and I'll be sure to answer any questions you may have. Finally, if you would like any personal support within your twin flame relationship or dynamic, then I'd love to guide and support you. I don't specifically work with just twin flames. My work is helping you to really connect with your shadow and reintegrate those aspects within yourself, so that you can bring your soul into alignment, so that you can love, honor and appreciate yourself. And bringing your soul into alignment is in many ways bringing the masculine and feminine aspects into alignment within you as well. If you would like any personal support, please be sure to connect with my website, which is www.awakenyoursoulpathway.co.uk. and if you would like to book a free clarity call to see how I can guide and support you on your spiritual journey, then you can also connect with that on my website, and there is a link to book a clarity call below this video. So with that, I will say thank you for listening. Again, I hope you found that to be valuable and useful, and I do look forward to connecting with you in another video. With that, I will say Bye for now.